So we're back with another build with Ben. And what we're going to do today is we're going to pick up where we left off last time, where we successfully got the Nuxt Airtable integration going. And after a week off, honestly, my brain's a little bit hazy. So if you weren't here last time, we're going to do a little bit of review on what happened and where we're at with it. And then I think we're going to push it a little bit further. So we're going to see some more Airtable integration, but also more importantly, we're going to see some Nuxt development and just how to enhance it. Jacob here, Ben's software that helps with ums. So one of the things I noticed that I do after looking at transcripts and that kind of stuff is I'm trying to be better at the ums and the uhs, but then other things, there are a lot of filler words that I think that's one of the things that happens when you're sort of, I don't know, sort of like talking on the fly. So, so the software, by the way, for those wondering, you want to check it out, is it's called Descript. And so actually, you know what? I'm going to drop that URL in the chat for you all. So if you're looking for basically I wouldn't say you don't even need to really be in the content game as far as you don't need to want to have a YouTube channel or create a podcast. But I found that this as a whole, even if it's as simple as call it doing a screen recording to send your coworkers the bugs or whatever, it's really nice because what it'll do is it'll edit everything, or sorry, it'll basically auto transcribe everything with machine learning, and then from that point on, you'll have the ability to actually rather than splicing your audio clip, which if you've ever done, you know how tedious it can be because you have to basically find where the word begins and where it ends. Because of the machine learning, and as long as it's basically pretty close, and honestly it usually is, you can basically delete the word in the transcript, and it'll automatically delete the word inside of the audio clip. And this is a game changer when it comes to editing, right? Because now rather than having to listen and go, oh, I think I heard a there, let me rewind back 2 seconds and then cut it out, then that's the thing. So yeah, so to Jacob's point here, it's hard to get used to being comfortable with the silence. I think that's so I had a thing going where I was trying to get background music going at one point, but then what I'd noticed is it was a little bit distracting for people, at least from what I'd seen, especially because, don't get me wrong, if we're doing a co-working session where I'm just quietly coding, I think background music works perfectly. Typically, though, what I've learned with these particular formats is I'm usually talking or trying to talk out loud, and so the background music ends up being more of, I think, a distraction than anything else. So, I'll play around more with that, and we'll figure out the format as time goes on. But with that said, let's kick it on over to the live screen. Let's see if we can get this working the way I want it to. Okay. Yeah. So this is the Descript website. But all right, let's go ahead and minimize this for a second. Okay. So, oh man, the chat window I have it's got botched. So I had this idea. So if you're wondering what's going on here, oh no. Yep, that's. Okay, let's see. All right. Chat widget box is not going to be that helpful on the live stream right now. So what I was trying to do originally, all right, am I here? Okay, this is good. Okay, this works. Okay, so what I was trying to do with the sort of new layout was I was trying to shrink the footer a bit to allow more screen real estate, but right now it's having a small issue where if I do it too big, it's gonna get cut off funny. So gosh, I was spending hours trying to figure this out, and so this was the best I could come up with at the moment. Because now one of the things is that so when I'm looking at the screen, you'll notice that my face is turned towards the monitor, and so it was this whole thing where I was trying to switch it and trying to make it look. Not anyways. So here, okay, so this looks all right. This looks like it works. All right, let's. Oh, you know what? This is what I was trying to be better of. I remember now. Okay. So with okay, one of the things I'm trying to be much better at, and for those who have followed for a bit, you know that I've been trying to be better about this, but this is really what I'm trying to do is that as I collect resources and thoughts through the episode and as we stream, this will make it a lot easier for me to put together the show notes for when we do the actual formal publishing. So trigonometry, yes, it does feel like lots of math. I seriously probably should be doing a wireframe and figuring out how I can get more real estate, because some of the things I've seen people do with the screen is that they'll go full screen and then they'll put themselves in a corner. And the reason I try to avoid that I've actually, and not even tried, I've avoided that this whole time, is because I always thought it was a little weird to cover up part of the screen. Especially because, like I'm assuming, especially when I'm talking about things, that you can see everything. So I don't know if part of that is just, call it like a workflow bit, where I always try to be cognizant of the fact that, like, call it my avatar is in the lower right in that regard. So that's kind of the thing I'm trying to think about when it comes to that. And the other thing too, really, is that I don't know. I mean, I'm curious if anyone in the chat, if y'all have preferences, like, would you all prefer if like it was like a green screen at this point, where I was like only my body cut out in the corner? I think that is like kind of like the minimal impact you can have when you're doing live coding. It would be fairly easy for me to do. I think I just need to figure out how to get the software to remove the green screen, because though it may not look like it, I have a green screen right behind that I can just sort of yank up, which is super nice. And so yeah, I might play around with that. But anyways, so we talked about Descript today, so I want to make sure I drop that in here so that when people sort of review this, they can take a look at resources. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the repo where we last sort of left off. So let me see. Let me move the mic actually a little bit closer. Hopefully that improves the audio quality a bit. All right. So the repo we were working on happens to be actually the site, my actual personal site. So the Ben Code Zen repo. So here, I'll go and drop it inside of the chat. And then now I dropped it in the chat, I'm going to remember I drop it in resources. Trying to make that a better habit. All right, Plan, thank you for the vote. I prefer your background over some green screen. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Honestly, like, I know the green screen is great when, like, I don't know, call it, but like, I spent a bit of time on this, so it's nice to have it. I guess I need to figure out, I guess, again, maybe it's just more of getting in the habit of when I'm coding and like sharing the screen. So I don't know. I mean, maybe let's try it a little bit right now. Heck, what is the worst that'll happen? So I'm gonna blow up the screen a little bit more. See, this is why I try to shrink the footer, and I clearly kind of botched it. Okay, so here all I'll do is I'll do this here, and then here I will I'll shrink myself a bit. Let's see. Your room is very cozy. Well, if it makes you so, what I have here actually is the corner of the living room. Is basically where I am at the moment. So it's kind of funny. Okay, let me see if I shrink down more. Yeah, there's something jiving weird to me about this layout, but anyways, we'll figure it out. All right, so I got a little bit more screen real estate now, so hopefully at least it's easier to see. Yeah, to Jacob's point, I see really make a grid layout helper. Yeah, that's what's tricky, because one of the things I like about, so if you haven't followed sort of my, he's actually officially now my boss. So Jason, on his live stream, he does like the footer on the bottom with like the chat, as well as like what, basically like give people context on what's going on in case they don't have like the full Twitch overlay. I've always really liked that about the show. But then obviously as a result of that, this does mean that you can't just like fill up the screen, right, with your 1920 by 1080 like full screen monitor. So I don't know, it's a bit of a trade-off. I'll have to look back at his layout to see if there's a good way that he handles that, because I was trying to get better at maximizing the real estate so people can actually see what's on the screen, because that's, if we think about it, that's kind of what's the most important with these streams. I don't know, I'm rambling at this point. Okay, so let's get back into it. All right, so let me clear this up. And then we are going into the Ben Code Zen directory. Great. Okay, so I believe the last time we did this, we almost, by we, I mean I, almost completely failed. And by that, I mean I had tried really hard to get the integration, and it was so close to basically not working at all. So to see what happened last, let's go ahead and, heck, let's take a look at the log, because after being on vacation for a little bit and being away from things, I have kind of forgotten what we did. Okay, now I'm starting to remember. Okay, So we okay, serverless functions schedule. Okay, I can now walk everyone through this. All right. So what we have here is I created basically an API endpoint. And that was the big accomplishment here. And so if you're wondering, don't worry, this is a public thing. There's nothing the private stuff is already inside of an environment variable. So basically here we can see that we got in here, we configured Airtable, we got in, fetched everything. When it was done, we called it back, sent back the data. And then this is being ingested right now under the schedule page. And so this allowed, what's going on? Okay, so async mounted. Oh yeah, I hadn't even done that. I wanted to fix that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start up the server. All right. See, this is why we ship, because if I had waited to do the perfect thing that I wanted to and left it in a branch, it would have never gone up. But now that let's see, yarn dev. All right, it's going. Oh, this is taking a little up. There we go. Okay. Let's see. All right, so I'm still in the shot. Okay, camera lags time to time. I wonder. Okay. I wonder. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Okay, if the camera's lagging. All right, weird. Let me try something real quick. Switch over to intermission. Okay, thesis. How is the camera right? Oh, it is still lagging. Huh. It is lagging a little bit. I wonder if it's because I have the recording going on. It looks like the camera drops frame, but everything else is fine. Okay, thanks, Trout Soda. Okay, what I'm gonna do then, actually, this might be a bandwidth thing. Okay, so what I've done now is I'm no longer recording on ScreenFlow, and I'm just doing Twitch. So hopefully the OBS can pick this up a little bit better. It started letting right around the time you started talking about Descript. Okay, weird. I mean, maybe the DSLR is, I don't know. I like how clean the DSLR looks when it comes to video quality. But like, if it's gonna lag, is my CPU maxed? I mean, I was running the ScreenFlow recording. Looks good now. I think it was the recording. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, so even more reason why I probably need to figure out whether OBS could do. Honestly, I really hope they come out with like the MacBook Pro. So I need, hasn't been an issue in the past. Yeah, I'll have to tweak around with some of the performance things. This is a bit weird, but not a big deal. So because obviously Twitch will have a recording of this, I can still obviously edit this directly. So I'm not terribly concerned. All right, so at least this gets us back, and this is great timing. Oh man, this layout bums me out. All right, so I guess while we're here and I'm fixing things, that's one of the things I guess we'll talk about, right? Is that one of the things I tried to learn with the, I don't know, call it the burnout and everything, is that like, it's really important to just sometimes just go with the flow. It's easy to be really judgmental on yourself when you want things done a certain way, or you think things should be done a certain way, like basically when you're prepping things. And the reality is it's not always that simple. And if you keep, pushing yourself and punishing yourself for not getting things done perfectly prepped, then a lot of times, I mean, that I think that where is a lot of the burnout comes in, right? It's because you want things shipped a certain way, and so you push yourself way past your limits, or just like kind of spend emotional capital trying to figure that out. And so that's what's tricky now. Okay, so I got a confirmation. Everyone says it looks good. So yeah, honestly, I might just have too many things running. But again, the fact that I'm running all this on a MacBook Air continues to astound me. I mean, maybe what I need to ultimately do is figure out a, I don't know, more robust rig. But I just, again, for the sake of like getting things done, this has so far gotten me to the point where we've been streaming and we've been very happy, I think, so far with the overall results. Okay, hopping back into the chat. Oh, thesis here. We are here not for you being perfect. We're here for you. Thanks, I appreciate it. I think the judgment sometimes in my head when it comes to like, I should have this done. I should. There's the should. Definitely, like if you ever find yourself saying I should do something, it's a little bit of a judgment word in that regard, and so maybe it's like a reminder to kind of. I was very happy with these, by the way. You'll see, just having this little like animation with the words, very very fun to build. And so if you ever wanted, again, my entire site is open source, so feel free to steal and use it for your own. All right, jumping over to the schedule. Oh, I stumbled on a mysterious error. Oh gosh, does that mean like I shipped a broken page? Oh, that worked. Okay, great. That's fine. Okay, but something is working. Something is working. That is a big thing. All right. I think I know what it is. Silly me. I'm hitting endpoints, and so I need netlify dev rather than just the yarn dev, because I need something to host the serverless functions that we're hitting, and then that will allow us to do like all the interfacing and stuff that we're doing. Jacob here with buy a streaming computer. Honestly, Jacob, maybe we should just in the DMs hit me up, because I'm more than happy to invest in like a proper gaming tower setup. But I think part of it is that comes with the whole like, it's not even just buying the machine, right? I'll buy the machine, but then it's like, then I have to get everything set up on Windows, because yeah, I gotta get everything set up on Windows, and then most of my like productivity things are in Mac. So it's just sort of like catch-22 of like, oh, what do I do? I don't know. At some point, that might be worth an optimization, but for now, here we're gonna keep at it. Okay. So as you can see here, we were successful at actually integrating the build with Ben session 13. All my events that are built with Ben are in here, 13, 11, 14. It's completely not sorted, but that is totally fine. So this is good. All right. So as far as first step of iteration with this, and Thesis and Jacob here, a new gaming rig would destroy your wallet, not even mentioning Windows problems. Jacob here, Windows run both Windows, Macs, code on both. Happy to help if you need help keeping things in sync and stuff. Yeah, honestly, it's like I've attempted it a few times actually, and so I actually have a gaming PC laptop, and every time I fall a little bit short of getting a proper setup going, but honestly, it might be a fun exercise at some point. Once I like create the bandwidth to like call a hack on it over time, I think that'll be the key, because the number of things I've customized for myself through the Mac workflows and like keyboard maestro and that kind of stuff, I'd probably want to leverage all those muscle memories within the PC as well. So how I flip those things and do those things, Jacob will definitely be hitting you up when I start that journey for sure. Okay. So when it comes to iteration here, well, one of the things I'm already noticing a little bit weird is why the heck is there an invalid date here? That looks funky to me. Let's go to Airtable real quick and see, did I do anything weird? So as you can see, I'm starting to actually, so with Airtable, okay, actually quick review. For those who don't know what Airtable is, think of it like a Notion database. And so in the sense that like you can create, actually let me go back one further, because then I'm also assuming you know Notion databases. I'm assuming most people probably know Excel. You come in, you have rows of data, and you have columns that are certain data, that you want to adhere to a certain type. And so you can see here that I have like the name of the content, I have the type, when it started, when it ended, where I did it, etc., and status and that kind of stuff. And so from there, if you understand like the spreadsheet aspect, what it allows you to do is then take that same data form and then manipulate it into different things. So for example, if I wanted to plot all my Build with Ben series on a calendar, what I could do is choose a calendar, right? And do ends field. And then so within here, I could do something like filter everything where the name contains Build with Ben, right? And so what that'll do, you'll see it's kind of nice, is it kind of goes through and, oh, that is weird. I should have, oh, no, this is right. I took a week off last week. And so what's nice is you can enter in data the way you're familiar with as far as Excel spreadsheets, that kind of stuff. But then on the other hand, when you're actually looking at, you want to look at the data and inspect it a little bit more, that allows you to do a bit more. And so I think it's a little bit limited on what you can display. Again, people have different software has different philosophy on how this stuff kind of goes. But so it's nice to be able to have this. And so let me go ahead and delete this view. And so, and so the nice thing about different views is as you're viewing the data within different ways, it allows you to then when you update it, there's still this whole single source of truth database concept, which is super nice. Okay. So now that we're in here, the weird thing to me though is that we have all this stuff, right? Build with Ben, we have here. My question here is, why did we suddenly get an invalid date here? That's what's weird to me. Using a non-primitive at a key. Whoa. All right, yeah, something's funky. All right, I shipped something weird. All right, 1213. So that's what's interesting, right? It goes upcoming 1213, then it does contributor days, and then it goes through at 1110, 98, all the Build with Bens, all the office hours. So let's take a look at how we're querying the data. I think that's the first thing we'd want to do. It's based on how we're querying the data from events. We're basically getting everything from public events. Okay. So from, just so you know, so basically when I'm in, oh wait, hold on. Why is this? I don't want, oh no, I just destroyed VS Code. I don't want this window. Yes. Okay. That window's gone. Almost. So I have macros to switch between applications, but then this means that when I have VS Code on two monitors, it brings both up in both monitors, and I don't want that. I just want the one. So here we have our events within the specific view of public events. Then I get all my records. Okay, I can follow that, because what it is here I'm in the events sort of area, I don't know, call it events database. And then public events is where I have all my stuff. Okay, this is where the invalidate comes in. So at one point, I must have created this public thing, and that's what explains the invalid date. Okay, great. So I'm going to delete the record. Excellent. Okay, cool. That was a easy debug. So now if we go back to our page and we refresh, it should... Okay, so we've solved that one bug. That bug is good. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to do, though, is... All right, this is completely sorted. Doesn't make any sense. We want the upcoming to basically be... I don't know. Let me talk this out. As a user coming to this page, if I'm looking at an upcoming schedule, I probably want to find out the thing that's literally the next thing. So call it, we need all the events that are after... that are after this moment, right? This moment in which I load the page is where, I realize where this actually could get tricky. And I'll explain why in a second. Because actually, why am I explaining in a second? If we statically generate all these pages and the way everything's viewed at the beginning, this will be a little bit tricky because, some of this cannot be truly static. So in other words, I can't if I rely on the server to pre-generate all these pages, it will only generate okay, let's say if right now we generate all our pages statically, the problem is that basically when tomorrow comes, it will basically still think that it's today. because that's when it was generated. And so this part will require some, I think the filtering part where we're like showing the upcoming, that needs to be basically done via JavaScript. I don't think there's much to be done. I think there's some things I can do to help reduce the payload and time-wise, but okay. So let's start with that very simple thing, is that we need to sort out all of the events that are upcoming versus what's old, because this is clearly very, very, very off. So how are we going to do this? I'm going to bump this over, bump this 2/3 so we can see everything. And let's go into the schedule page. Okay, so we know a couple of things. We know that the event list here contains all of the event data, but now what we need to do is we need to actually compute the various pieces. And so how are we going to do this? This is an excellent question. Let's see. Event fields name, new date, date. Okay. So let's do this one comparison first, right? Is that beneath here, we're gonna say whether or not the new date here is greater than. So if I do new date here, which should be literally this moment, is greater than this, that should give me a Boolean on each line, and I hopefully should get a comparison. Although whether that renders out as expected will be comparison. Let's see. Oh, he wants to get mad. Past. Upcoming broke. I guess that makes sense. Oh, wait, here we go. Comparison true. Okay, it did work. All right, so comparison true and starts on. So this doesn't make any sense. Why is all of this true? Because if we're comparing the two dates, these should be less than. That's actually what we want. So new date. Oh, wait. If new date is less than. Oh, wait. If my theory is true. Okay, this is false. This passed. Okay, so I flipped it. Sorry. Because when we're doing the new date, right, this current date will always be, like we're saying, is this moment like ahead of all the other dates, and that is 100% true. So great. This makes it fairly easy to do. So what I can do then is inside of my computed properties, we're going to have two different lists. We're going to have the upcoming events, upcoming event list. And then we're going to have something called, we have upcoming, and then we have old events list. Upcoming, old, archive. Yes, let's just keep it simple. I'm not going to worry too much about naming. Let's do archive, event archive list. I think that's better. All right. And so within here, then what we can do is we can return the event list, and then where we're going to go ahead and filter out all of the different events inside of here. And what we're actually going to do is maybe I can actually do this in one line, and it won't be too difficult to read. We want to filter it to Does this not work? Oh, is it want to? Okay, it wants to do it like that. That's fine with me. So we're going to filter it, and what we're going to do is for every single event, we're going to check to make sure that the new date, if it's archived, we want to verify that it's older, so that way it's true. So the current date is greater than this date, greater than or equal to, actually. Well, yes. I need it to be instant, greater than or equal to, because the upcoming is where I want to say less than or equal to, because if you happen to load it at the exact moment at which it shouldn't be considered old at that point, right? So yes, I think this should work. All right, then by this argument, this dot event list dot filter, then I can go with this event new date, and then if it's less than or equal to new date based on the event dot fields starts on here, this gives us this should give us the two different lists. Okay, so to show that this worked, we're going to go ahead and, all right, I'm going to remove the comparison field. And now what we should see here is that if I switch event list to upcoming event list, what we should get is only one item appearing in the upcoming. And, oh, it's even better than I thought. The difference being that it's not in the right order. But this is much, 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 much better already than what we had already. So then from here, I'm not gonna fix the order yet because it's meeting my requirements. I want to actually go past. Oh, I called it past events. Oh, past events might make more sense. Anyways, so what do I need to do? I do need to make sure that this data is equivalent though, because I think Thesis, like if he could react with an emoji, Thesis had a bit of a sick vomit face when realized that all of these are hard coded right now. So it's kind of sad. Okay, so what I can do is I can say that this one I don't have this. So if I'm gonna go ahead and add this to my schedule, the way I'm gonna do that is inside of Airtable for public events. I'm just gonna add a new row for the practical dev Twitch stream. I think they actually had a different title, but again, this is what's really nice about. So this was Wednesday, July 7th. Okay, so Wednesday, July 7th at 1 p.m. I don't recall how long it was. I can always fix that later. And that's the beautiful part of starting to separate the data management and why I like things like Airtable or whether it's Notion or some kind of free range database that you can manipulate and do things with, because this is the kind of thing where when I make a change, I want it to go ahead and build and do the right things, but otherwise I don't want it to obviously manually make those changes. So, hey, all right. So we have a Paul Malero here, and glad to have you here. Shouldn't data be fetching done in async data, or at least a created hook? If you already ran through that, I just arrived. Actually, Paul, your question is quite well timed so your question is well timed because I'm about to get to that. In that, I'll explain why I didn't do that in a bit. So okay, so let me go ahead and finish this up. I'm gonna go ahead and say 0707. I'm just gonna say it was 90 minutes. I think most streams fall in that range. No, I'm gonna say it was 60 minutes, just on the same side. So, and then if I figure out that's wrong later, that's fine. And it was a live stream, and it's done, right? This thing is done. I don't remember the location of it. I'll have to get the recording later. And excellent. Okay, so now that this is done, let me drop Airtable back and collapse that in. What we should see now is I'm gonna just delete all this. It makes me a little nervous because it's a lot of data, but that's okay because we have version control. And I'm gonna say pass event list to make this more consistent. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, that's why it's yelling at me, because event really shouldn't be an object. Yeah, I know. I was short on time. Okay, I'll explain. I had a reason for all this. All right, so I'm gonna say pass event list. Pass event list. And we refresh. Okay. Bum 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 bum. Local host built with Ben. Great. This is good. This is really good. 3, 2, 1. Office hours. Again, the sorting is completely all over the place, but that's fine. Practical dev stream. Excellent. We have lunch. Thesis. We have Git. Famous last words. Hey, I am a big fan of what I call micro commits. Like to me, commits in a repo ideally should tell a story. And so as much as I humanly can, I do try to keep my commits isolated. And for me, I think it's always a little bit funny when teams try to like make the commits as like they try to squash them as much as possible, because to me, that's like at least assuming your developers are writing good commits, then like that's kind of the beauty of seeing that history of the code base over time. And again, there may be some performance implications at a certain size within a certain scale, but for me personally, I rarely squash that kind of stuff. I'd like to see them. If there were mistakes made, there were mistakes made. I don't need to squash that and remove that. I don't personally don't see the point. But anyways, okay, we have liftoff because we now have all of like, not all, but we're at the point where it's integrated where that if I ever like, I have some downtime, I want to update Airtable, I know that the next time the site builds, it'll go ahead and actually fetch and start updating things correctly. We have some iteration things to make on this, but for now, what I'm going to go ahead and do, honestly, is because this is already a significant improvement over what I had before, then we're going to go ahead and let me go ahead and check this real quick. Okay, great. Then I'm going to say this was a feature make event list dynamic. That's fine. That's good enough for me for now. Okay. And that's cleaning up. Bump, bump, bump. All right. So now that, all right, excellent. Actually, I'm just going to push. Okay. Now, on to Paul's question, which is something that plagued me at the time when I ended the stream last time, is Paul is absolutely correct in that if we're fetching data, it really doesn't make sense in this particular case to be doing it inside of like the mounted lifecycle hook. And so as a sort of a quick review for everyone, so view lifecycle hooks, we have a great little diagram inside of here, right here. So you basically allows you to see that like when the view instance is created, when you can basically grab things, when you're able to access certain things. And so in this particular case, right, like mounted happens all the way down here, believe it or not. Basically, this is when like the components and stuff are starting to actually be mounted to the page. And sometimes you actually do need it to be mounted because you might be, call it fetching the elements. Maybe you're doing some manipulation like via something else. That does happen. However, for something as, call it as straightforward as fetching data and you just want to inject it into the store, this is where you can start saying, well, in this case, created would probably make more sense. So from like a first iteration of improvement for like moving it, right? Again, we're speaking with view terms and we're going to move to Nuxt shortly. This probably would be better as inside of the created lifecycle hook. That way we'll probably see here that when it refreshes, it's a lot faster at sort of bringing it up. It's still not perfect because ultimately in the end, ideally what you would have is you'd have all that data show up kind of like more immediately, right? Mounted was, if you couldn't tell, was a little bit slower. Oh, thesis here with a great call here. They squash commits because of rebates and merge conflicts. Not a problem for preserving actual data. Okay, well, in that case, that's good to hear. I've just seen the way some people do it. It seems like all the history is gone, but as long as people are doing it in a way that kind of helps to preserve that data and that history, hey, to me, I am all for it. That works for me. Okay, so the async created is already a step for like further, like sort of a step improvement from like a view lifecycle hook perspective. But to Paul's point now, because we have Nuxt, one of Nuxt's greatest advantage is that it allows us to do some server-side rendering and generate things in advance. So in other words, what we could do is say inside of async data, which the way you should think of async data is like a lifecycle hook that exists before the view lifecycle hooks begins. This is not going to work, by the way. So because why is this not going to work? Couple of reasons, but the first of which is that this whole this.event list, this doesn't exist right now. Because right now, remember what I said, async data exists outside of the view lifecycle hooks. So what you end up doing when you're working with async data is actually, I realized this could even theoretically, this more appropriately should probably be brought up here. Because async data happens before everything in the view instance. So from like an order of operations, you should think of async data happens first, then I have access to it going down in the rest of the component. So from here, rather than saying that this.event list equals events data, what I can do is I can return basically something back to the component to use. And in this case, we're going to return something called event list that will take events data. And so for those of us who've been using Vue 3 and starting to do a lot of composition API stuff, this actually should look quite familiar. Okay, so now we run into error number 2. The problem with doing async data at this point is that you have because everything is being fetched on the server side, you no longer have the ability to rely on relative URLs. And this might seem like an easy fix, right? Because right now, if we come in here and we just go, that's great. I know that my local development environment is, 888, and that's what it'll be. As we'll see when I refresh, I'm going to go fetch, and you'll notice the data now appears instantly, which is awesome. This is really great. The problem here, though, is that localhost 888 is not going to exist when it's going to be deployed. So we have a couple of ways to fix this. The one that I basically recommend is that we need to have a way to configure whether or not you're in localhost versus like whether you're in your dev mode basically, or whether you're in anything but that. Like when you're in dev mode, use localhost 8888. Otherwise, use the production endpoint. And so since we're using Netlify serverless functions in this particular case, that's kind of the tricky part, is that you have to hit something that's actually running so that the API actually is live. And so right now, I do know though, for example, if we go to right now, bencodezen, bencodezen.io/API/events, right? And we hit this endpoint, you'll see that you can actually see all the data. This is great. And so this is the kind of thing that Nuxt needs to hit when it's generating things. That is super, super important. So the way we're going to do this is, I believe, the Nuxt HTTP module, which I generally, when it comes to Nuxt, this is what I tend to use, because this is the official module for making requests to API, and I know that it's going to be supported. So rather than use something like Axios, for example, since I'm using Nuxt, why not use the official module? So to show how Nuxt HTTP works, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and add Nuxt HTTP into my dependencies. Bump, bump, bump. And then while that's installing, I'm going to go ahead and actually reduce this down a bit. We're going to go ahead and open up our Nuxt config. And I realized, I forgot to do this, I'm going to bump up the font a little bit. So hopefully that's a little bit easier for people to see. And I'll bump this up as well. Okay, so here inside of our export default, we have inside of our Nuxt config, we have a series of modules that we're going to be using. And so you can see here, it's funny, I actually have Nuxt Axios in here. I wonder when I was using that. Anyways, I can always refactor that later on. So I'm going to go ahead, and again, I'm a big fan of keeping things readable, so alphabetical it is. So Nuxt HTTP, that's been installed. I'm saving that. That's great. And now you can use HTTP in your app. So the only other thing though, actually, let's make sure this works, because the one thing I don't want to do, we want to make sure things work and iterate as time goes on. So inside of my schedule here, rather than using fetch, we're going to be using the HTTP module. And this is not going to work because we need to actually fetch it from the async data context, I believe. I might have botched this a little bit. Compiled. Although, why is it yelling at me? Expression expected. Let me double check something real quick. Usage. Yes, await HTTP. Oh, this is totally not going to work. .get. Yep, but when I use it in async data, bum bum bum. Oh, I was right. Yep, bum 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 bum, and then get. Okay, now this is much cleaner. Okay, excellent. That's compiling. That's good. All right. So where are we? All right. Whoop. I don't need zoom right now. If I refresh, everything looks good. To make sure everything breaks, I'm going to add a 2 here. Did my keyboard turn off on me? Oh, man. I really like this mechanical keyboard, but I'm not going to lie. I've had it glitch on me a few times now, and I'm not... that's the last thing I need right now. I use the keyboard all the time. So this should glitch out and we should get an error or something, right? Something should break. Assuming keyboard are you using? Yes. Error not found. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So yes, it does work. And so here, if we take this off here, because this is what we want, this will yell at us and say we need a relative URL, I'm pretty sure. Oh, wait. Oh. That's surprising to me. The HTTP GET didn't even need a... It was able to do relative paths? I don't recall encountering that. That's fascinating. At one point, so let me explain what I was going to do. If this works, honestly, great. What I was going to do is that for the options, I was going to say that the base URL needed to be configured inside of your Nuxt config. So basically what you say is like, if the environment is dev environment, then use localhost 8888. Otherwise, use like the production API server. But I'm really surprised. This seems to be working. I'm gonna just reserve my skepticism for a bit. I'll leave it, but this is great if this is really working. So let me go ahead and save this. Okay, so you'll notice one, that everything is working as is, because when you return this object here that contains your event list, this is the same thing as if you think of it another way, it actually is very close to how in data we define a function that returns an object. Actually, that syntax, it probably won't make you think that here. Return an object, right? And then you're like, event list is like, you know, this empty array, or in this case, events data. Like, that's basically what you're doing with this return statement up here. So that's how all that works. And so by allowing yourself to do all the async fetch in advance, this means that when it's actually pushed to production and built, it will be built, the data will be fetched, the pages will be, and then the data will be ready there. And that way, when the page is loaded, you don't have to worry about all that fetching, like when view starts, which is really, really awesome. And so to also kind of, because, you know, I'm not going to assume that people have watched this, the past episode prior to this one. The reason why it was mounted at the beginning is because I'm a big fan of when you're working on something, especially if you're on a time crunch, and I certainly was on a time crunch when it came to getting this integration happening on the live stream. Getting something to work is just as quickly as possible was basically like the big deal. So host port prefix. Hey, look at Paul here with the awesome assist. So let me pull up this, the base URL. So it looks like here, base URL goes to the host. Yep. Host port. Hey, that's great. See, that's one less thing I have to think about. Hey, that is pretty great. Not gonna lie. API URL can be used to override the base URL. This is very cool. Okay, so actually one of the things, again, trying to be better, one of the things we played around with today is also the HTTP module. Although it's funny that it's like HTTPS, HTTP. I thought that was a typo for a second. So Paul here with the excellent call out here in regards to the fact that, in the event you're using Nuxt and you know that this data doesn't need to be, like, you have the advantage of fetching it in advance and you don't need it to be, like, call it that, like, the data is not like changing so frequently you need to fetch it on the client side, then Async Data is a fantastic lifecycle hook for doing those things in advance. And so the only other things I'm thinking of, though, is that technically a small problem with this is that when you do things with async data, it will generate all the stuff in advance and do all the thing. But then going forward, if I don't ever generate a page again, but then I update the database, there won't be a new fetch. So this is like a trade-off that you have to acknowledge when doing this, is that this fetch in this particular case will only happen at the server time. Basically, especially if you're doing a more Jamstack style approach where you're pre-generating a lot of your pages, this will happen in advance. So if we really needed to, I would say I'm not going to do this because I would personally rather just have things statically generate, and I'm not adding so many events. I'm not making so many changes to the data. Call it similar to like an e-commerce platform where you really need that data to be like basically an instant fetch every time. You can't rely on the fact that your page will have been built with the correct data. In that particular case, if I had to deal with that, I would probably still try to pre-generate as much as I could in advance, but I'd also then have like on created hook do a quick comparison to make sure nothing's changed. And so there are probably some performance optimizations you can do to make sure like a quick comparison that's really cheap rather than like, because what you don't want to do, right, is like take the data set you have then and then compare it to the data set like on the client side. You'd want to like call it on the I don't know, on the art, like in my mind, when you're doing this kind of performance tuning, I'm hoping you have access to the backend at that point. And hopefully there's some sort of checksum where you can just be like, has it changed since this date? And then like, if not, then like move on. And if it has, then fetch and redo the whole thing. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's see. Is there anything else we can do outside of this optimization? I think that's it. I think this is great. I think we now will have this page being generated. And so, and then again, just to demo it for you, if I go to benkozen.io/schedule, you'll see that it holds up for a sec and then renders. And that's not great. We want it to just show up, especially because this is the kind of stuff that is actually pretty predictable. All right, so that's that. We know that's in. So let's go ahead and run that commit. So I added Nuxt HTTP, refactored that. Okay, so I'm going to say this refactor used async data to pre-generate, to optimize data fetching with Nuxt HTTP module. Boom. All right. So again, thanks, Paul, for bringing up the async data. It definitely was the perfect timing from a question perspective to kind of go ahead and refactor this piece. Now that we have this done, and now that we reliably have the content being fetched from Airtable, the thing I need to do next is honestly, I need to make sure things are sorted correctly. Yeah, you're welcome, Paul. Appreciate the support. It can get sometimes open source world, and just honestly, just working in public has its trade-offs when it comes to the kinds of comments and the things you deal with. So positivity and support from folks like you are super appreciated in helping to kind of keep the workload going. Okay, so now that we have this stuff, this is great. We have it, but if I'm thinking of it from a user perspective, this is still a lot of information. And more importantly, I have to now think about whether or not this is the right time, and I think the data is processed a little funnily. Because, for example, you should care about, or I would think you would care about the next thing that happens. And so, and what I mean by this is rewind. The next session that's happening is Obsidian office hours this Thursday. Vue Contributor Days is not happening until October, so we need to flip things. So what we need to do is we need to sort the list. And we're going to, oh man. No, I'm not, okay, not gonna scope creep. Immediately my head was like, oh, what if I like added a drop down for people to like choose how they want to sort the data? It would be a fairly easy thing to do, like in my head. But again, one thing at a time. Probably the Pareto effect of like 80% of the scenario, people just want to find out what's next and in what order. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and let's just take upcoming lists, because this will be the easiest way to see that what we did worked. We're going to go ahead and run a sort on it between, again, we're just going to do sort between A and B. And then return, let's see, A.fields starts on, and compare that to whether it's greater. I forgot how this works. You like make sure that it's greater than, because you're trying to return 1, 0, or -1 on sort. So I don't know. Actually, can I just return a Boolean? I do remember the 1, -1 though. If return this, return -1. So actually, no, I do think that is necessary. So if I do a.fields starts on, and I'm going to need this field, and this is a bit of a mouthful to type, so I'm going to copy this real quick. If this is less than the B, again, we're going to see if this actually works. Then, ooh, okay. Then in this case, we'll return, I never remember how it works exactly. The A is, in this case, is, we're assuming that the date is less, oh shoot, not even that. I just need to go, I need to go new date. Oh man, no, this is already, this is already way too complicated. All right, const date A equals this, and date B is going to be the same thing, but with this. That's what we're gonna do. So let me scroll up a little bit. So we're saying that if date A is greater than date B, I believe it's return 1, else if date A is less than date B, return -1, else return 0. All right, let's see if this works. Oh, I think I hit it on the mark. B minus A. Oh, is it B minus A? Does the B minus A work in this case because it's a date? I'm actually kind of curious now that you're mentioning that. So we can test this. I don't need to just return date B. Oh, that's cool. Okay, hang on. That's cool. Okay, so if I do const date A equals new date. So date A is, this is the time. So then we do const date B. Oh, I realize I need to bump this up because this is really small. Equals a new date here. So at this point, we should know that date B should have a further timestamp, which is true. It is further by 10 seconds. So according to Theta here, it's, if you're saying that we can then say date B minus date A, is that, but then date A minus date B. Okay, so we get a positive and a negative. So this is great. So let's refactor this further. Return date B minus date A. Okay, so if we save that now, we should not see a change. Oh, we do see a change, sorry. Because it looks like, at least with the date A, date B, in this case, it's doing the, I'll say, reverse chronological order. And we want the other way around. So we want date, we want the most recent thing to show up. So in this case, this would then yield exactly as we wanted. And then that means we can take the same sort. Oh, this is a kind of an interesting UX conundrum. I'm going to let it go ahead and redo itself. But, oh, did not like that. Why did it not like that? Oh, because I put it inside of the filter. That's why. If you're looking at the old events, you kind of, I'm not sure you want, yeah, I think this is wrong. I would argue that from a UX perspective, once you've looked at the upcoming, you'll probably look at the most recent old episodes, because you're probably not looking to jump to the very first thing that I ever did, which apparently, by the way, which I discovered thanks to the fact that I'm starting to now use a table and database to store the stuff. The very first time that I streamed officially, like with Twitch kicking off with like the Build Event series, is back in May 25th. May 25th, geez. Doesn't seem that long ago, but yeah, way back in May. So I would argue this, in this particular case, it doesn't really make sense. And so I would probably want to explicitly say then date A, date B, date A. And so now that That's good. Then technically, yes, build with Ben is in the past. This is the date, office hours. Okay, this is great. And then I think that is already an excellent iteration, just that alone. So just to help myself a little bit here, I will add, ooh, what did I do? Okay. So sort by most recent. That's kind of interesting, I realize, because the next event, sort by new most recent date. But this, on the other hand, it doesn't necessarily sort by earliest, closest date to today. All right, that's kind of like my thinking on this particular bit. So, okay, good enough. So once again, we have an iteration of it. And now we're going to go ahead and commit it. Sort schedule events based on category. That is now committed. Now, the only thing I need to do next, because I think this would bother me a bit, is we're going to do a little bit. I think we have time. All right, we have 15 minutes. Hey, how's it going, Prince? Good to see you, man. All right, we have 15 minutes, and we're going to do a pagination. We're going to build a pagination piece for this old stuff, all this old data, all my old events here. We're going to do this in the next 15 minutes. So, challenge accepted. Let's make this happen. All right, so in the past, okay, upcoming list. We know that within this upcoming list, we have a pretty large list, to be honest. It's like fairly long. But let's say I only want to show, I'm going to say the last 5. If people really want to go through past 5, they can scroll through themselves. So what we're going to do then is we're going to say, we need to keep track of a couple of things. We need to keep track of, we want to show limit of 5. And then beyond every 5, we're going to go ahead and let people iterate through that list. So what we're going to do here then is, all right, so I'm going to limit the, okay, so this is the upcoming event list. Okay, thinking this through aloud. So that we need to compute a list of things that only has the 5. So what I'm going to say is filtered upcoming events. That's what I'm going to call this next thing. So filtered upcoming events. And in this case, I'm not going to say event list. It's starting to get a little... I'll be consistent. I have a whole thing about plurals and lists for arrays, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, so from this, we're going to say that this upcoming list, upcoming event list. I wish I was this productive. You can be this productive. Well, I'll say, at least for me in particular, like I find Vue makes me so much faster with this kind of stuff. But anyways, we'll show you. So, okay, so one of the things is we need to actually catch the start of basically we want to take a subsection of the a slice, or not a slice? Yes, I think. We want to spread out. We want to grab the beginning up to the end. I think that's a slice. I think a slice will not mutate. So if I understanding this correctly, if we do 0 to 5, and then just to see that this works, I'm going to go ahead and add another H2 called slice, and then we're just going to go ahead and render out filtered upcoming event. Oh, no, shoot. Not upcoming, so past event list. Okay, so if I save this, I should get, although I went 0 to 5, so actually I just realized this is totally not going to work. Here we go, slice, good. But I did something wrong. Okay, we still good, still got time. Oh, I still got those errors I got to fix. Here's const list equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, what? Oh. Okay, list. Okay, list dot slice 0 to 5. Yeah, that's right. Okay, at least my vanilla Java. That wasn't my fault. What am I doing here that's wrong? This dot upcoming event list. We're gonna take it and we're gonna slice the 0 to 5 index. Okay, maybe. Hold up. Maybe it's if this dot upcoming event list dot length is greater than 0, return that. Else return 0. Oh, not 0. Empty list. Ba-bum-bum-bum. Why is it not liking this? 100%, 100%. It should be this simple. All right, to make sure this works, I'm cutting this. Turn this dot upcoming event list. Oh my gosh, you're totally right. Although, even then, that kind of should have worked. Oh my god, y'all are totally right. Thank you. We're not doing filtered upcoming. We're doing filtered past event list. All right, filtered past event list. Good lordy, that's what I get for trying to rush. Okay, keep going. Filter past event list. Okay, that is consistent. All right, filter past event list is here. Length is greater than 5. Okay, excellent. Oh, ouch. Okay, great. That should be good. All right. So now to show you that this works, we can now switch out past event list for filtered past event list. And already this should only return. I should have known it was a naming thing. 1, 2, 3, too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I needed to go to 0 to 4, and then we should have an and All right. Rad. I like it, Prince. All right. Oh wait, I was right. I can't count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, great. This is good. Why? Because now that we have a computer property that always takes a specific slice of 5, basically on this, what we can basically do then is say that we set up a reactive data property, right? And just to be very explicit with what it is, we're going to call this a pass event page. And that'll start, pass event page will basically start at the 0 index. So to show you that this works, then what we can do is say this dot pass event page is the 0. And then we can basically say that the endpoint is this dot pass event page plus 5. So this here now, we get this still the same 0 to 5, but then if I, I didn't like it. Shoot, what did I do? Past event page. Why did it not like it? Oh, come on. Return. Come on. Yes, load. Okay, that's good. All right, let me do one piece at a time. This dot pass. This should event page. Typo pass versus page. Dang it. Okay, everything works. Man, all right, hold up. All right, I'm still good. I got 8 minutes. That should, okay, there we go. Past event page. Everything is good. Excellent. And then if we bump this to 5, it should automatically go from 5 to 10 and take the next round. Perfect. All right. Now what makes this this a cake walk is now that we have this, the pagination piece is actually fairly straightforward, because what we can do now is down below pass. It's not going to look beautiful. We're just going to make it work. And so we're going to say, first of all, let me just do a div, because v if, so basically what I'm trying to do here is that if filtered past, oh wait, not filtered past event list, because if past event list dot length is less than 5 or less than 6, less than equal to 5 actually makes more sense to me personally, then, sorry, greater than 5, that's what I want. Okay. So basically, to Thesis's point, without there's no point in having pagination if it's that short. Granted, basically at this point, it'll never be. My past event list will be greater than this at all times at this point. So now that we have this if condition. We can then say, if it is, we'll have a button for older events, and then we'll have, let's see, button newer. Let's just start with that. So let's see how that looks on the template side. Okay, newer, older. All right, it's not gonna be great, but it'll do. So then all we need to do though, newer won't exist though. So I'm gonna say v show rather than if, because if you have already created this, you're probably gonna be able to toggle back and forth. I don't want to destroy the button every time. So we only want to show this button if the pass event page is equal to, it's greater than 0. Otherwise, it should not appear. So if this works correctly, newer event should disappear once Nuxt loads. Great. So I'll just say actually like older events, newer events. Okay, so now that we have this conditional, this is great. And then actually we need a conditional here as well, because if pass event page is greater than pass event list dot length, then we should wait. Pass event page is less than pass event page. So if we have 10 items in the list, you're on 1 pass event page. Okay, this is going to be a little bit funky right now, but I'm just going to do it. Times 5 is less than the length. That should do it. Because every event, again, this is we could refactor it out to like the constant 5, et cetera, et cetera. But this should do it. So then once we have this, the button, all it needs to do then is every time you click the older one, we're going to take pass event page, and we're just going to add 5 to it. That should clean that up. And then, so if this worked, I have 5 minutes, we can do this. Boom, older, great. That is the most recent one. Newer events doesn't do anything just yet because we just need to add click pass event page minus equals 5. Oh, whoa, I clicked the wrong thing. That's not it. I did not put it on the button. Bum, 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 bum. All right, so now if it refreshes correctly, I can go backwards. Ah, it works. It works. Yeah, so that's simple pagination right there. That's all it takes. The only thing that, oh man, I'm not gonna get caught up. Okay, it works. Do I have a component for a button yet? I don't think I have one yet. Oh my gosh, Prince, you have not played with Vue? Yes, you gotta check it out. Where is the made event? Oh, good call. Let's see, Obsidian office hours. The May event disappeared. Okay, this probably my fault. I'm guessing it's the show condition. I think I did it. If events are not a multiple of 5. Okay. So, yeah, thesis. Good catch. See? Good catch. Okay, Tuesday, June, July. Oh. Weird. Okay, I have 3 minutes left. I mean, what I could do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because you could do each one. Okay, no. I have 3 minutes left. I have to be realistic. This pagination already, the fact that it works, so I think this is, yeah, this is, so what is the conditional then for hiding this? Because if it's greater than 0, that's fine, but if pass event page is less, Oh, wait. What did I have before? Pass event page is... Oh. I don't need to be multiplying it times 5. That's my problem. That is 100% my problems. Yes. Okay, yep. Feta Macus with the win. Yep. So here we go. Near events, gone. Older events. Da. Oof, close. Here at older events, it should stop. But at this point, it doesn't have... Oh, if pass event page plus 5, right? If pass event plus 5 is greater than the... No, that won't work either, because that will remove the last pay... No. I think that works. Modulo. Oh, Prince might be right. Oh, wait, hang on. I think that did it. There you go. I think just the plus 5 was adequate. Yeah. So if like, basically, I know that at this point I'm on like item 30, right? And so if 35 is less than the length, then it doesn't need to show up anymore. And that's it. That's it. We have pagination built in. I have 1 minute to spare. So now I can commit this and we are good to go. But yeah, I mean, so, you know, for those sort of new to the channel, or let's see, add pagination for pass event lists. One of the things I love particularly about working with Vue, and I think Sarah Drasner has echoed this a lot in her work as well, is that when you do a lot of work with animation, especially with manipulating data, I found that the idea of these reactive properties called computed data, right? And that those all do all the things to make sure that and watches all your dependencies in a way that's easy to keep track of. And then all you have to do is think about it, the fact that it's all based on two pieces of data, right? The true sources of data, similar to a database actually, is the event list we fetch from the API in this case, and in this case the reactive property of the pagination data that we've explicitly set to 0. Computed properties then allow us to take those and derive in a performant way, right? Without worrying about memoizing, without worrying about caching, and that is going to do it performantly. It will allow us to derive the properties we want and then use them very naturally as other reactive properties without being oh, did I cache it? Will it re-render? It will only, the beautiful thing about computed properties in Vue is that it will only recompute when the dependencies themselves have changed. So having that, if you think of that at scale with data watching data and having those computations happen, that is really to me at least, if there was only one thing I could take away from Vue, it would be that computed properties. It's made my life so much easier. And why I know I can trust the fact that once it's very much that unidirectional workflow, right? Once I have this one piece of data that's the source of truth, I can derive everything I need. So, we got it. I am not gonna lie, I am pretty happy about that. Okay, so with that, I'm pushing that up so that it will get deployed. People can now access the site. I think I need to look into a little bit of automation to make sure that my site is, I don't know, I probably want to start having it deployed daily now because I will probably be updating the database fairly consistently. But anyways, those are little automation pieces to do. Anyways, things to iterate on, things to improve on. With that, I think that's a wrap for Build with Ben.